Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis and the people who enjoy it. I hope to provide commentary about cannabis cultivation, cannabis enjoyment, cannabis as an herbal remedy, and hopefully continued cannabis liberation. Now join me, Uncle Dig, and let's overgrow the world. Hey guys, welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. We've got a nice show for you today. We've got some listener mail, a garden update, and a fantastic interview I am so excited to share with you from a little outfit out of Oklahoma called the Smokin Okies. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about the Oklahoma cannabis scene. But without further ado, let's get to some listener mail. If you write in, I'll read yours as well. I'm telling you, it's time for listener mail. Yeah! Anonymous writes in saying, listening to your podcast, but wanted to let you know that you don't need to report to Metric with 12 plants. You only need to report to Metric if you plan to transfer to a dispensary. And Anonymous is right. When on my interview with Rollin' Smokes, we did mention that if you had 12 plants, you had to report to Metric. Well, you do have to report, but not to Metric if you're not transferring to a dispensary. You have to report to the OMMP. If you are growing for yourself and one other person and you have that 12 plant count. However, you can have that 12 medical plant count on one property if you each hold the grower card and the medical card. So what happens is, and I had to call OMMP to figure this out. I had to actually call their line and ask the young lady on the phone this question. She said the way that you would have the 12 plant count and exempt yourself from the OMMP and the Metric reporting requirement is you don't transfer to a dispensary. And so, for example, if it was you and your spouse would have a medical card and a grower card, and you would have a medical card and a grower card. And each of you would register the grow site as one grow for yourself. And then you would have 12 plants. And the OMMP said that they would even waive the grow site registration fee if I wanted to do something like that for one of the sites. So you'd still only have to pay one registration fee. So that's a route you can take. The medical rules can be a little bit confusing, and the way people I don't want to circumvent them, but the way people interpret them, both legally and illegally, can be kind of confusing. So I just wanted to clarify that. And thank you, Anonymous, for the excellent questions. I hope I explained this adequately. It's kind of convoluted. Uncle Dig's garden update. There was a horrible hailstorm on Tuesday night. Came for my plants, gave me fright, destroyed the peppers, bent the tomatillos. But in the morning, the pot still grows, the pot still grows, don't you know? Yeah, anyway, so there was a horrible hailstorm on Tuesday night. And it really caterwamped my garden. But everyone's looking a little better. I was able to get my autoflowers under cover. It's 6:24 and we are in zone 8B. And I gave all my plants a little extra nitrogen this morning to try to get them to kind of recover from the damage. The stems are a little damaged. A couple of the growth tips were knocked off. A lot of leaves were torn off. But it looks like the plants are going to recover. So yeah, the garden's going okay. My peas were flattened by the hail. The tomatillos are recovering. Everything was really damaged. I may not get sunflowers this year. But that's how gardening works. Sometimes the weather has more to say about what happens in your garden than you can or do. On that note, let's overgrow the world. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the interview we've got for you today. Brandon is a podcast host, Marine veteran, and cannabis activist residing in the great state of Oklahoma. Evan is a weed nerd, kitchen chemist, and cannabis activist, also residing in the Sooner stronghold of Oklahoma. Together, they are the Smokin Okies, host of the podcast Smokin Okies. Welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles, gentlemen.
Hey, thank you for having us. Yeah, with our powers combined, we are the Smokin Okies.
Now, I understand you both are medical patients in Oklahoma. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm definitely medical patient here, but it's also recreational, man. It's fun.
Well, I always kind of tell people the high is part of the medicine, right? So we can't really separate a lot of times recreational use from medical use, because whether or not you're having fun, you're still getting the benefit.
Right. You are, yeah. What I usually use to distinct between the two is recreational is when I inebriate myself with it.
Right. Eating 4 squares off that chocolate instead of 2.
And what do you think Oklahoma did right when it came to medical cannabis? Like, what do you think they did a good job with when they rolled out the legislation?
A lot of things. Blake was here from the start and might be a little more qualified to speak on like the things from the very beginning, but they have been good about protecting like the interests of local growers without going too far the other way, to the extent that quote unquote big weed has been able to come in and, take things over. It's got a really nice mix. Blake and I always refer to it as a walled garden.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's also very, very patient driven, and it's pretty much a free market right now.
Yes,
I really like that. It drives competition, keeps man, I'm fucked up right now. Well, it's been very patient driven, and yeah, since the beginning there've been a couple of changes. Like the state has protected patients when it comes to drug screening for jobs and things like that. A patient cannot be discriminated against for popping hot for THC.
That's
essentially
amazing.
In a lot of circumstances, not all.
It's at the state level. The only places it can't be is like Department of Transportation, Health, and Law Enforcement, things that are still federally tied.
That makes sense, but like depending on what your job is, if you piss hot, that's not an automatically fireable offense, which is protection that even Oregon, Washington, I believe even California don't offer. So it's interesting to see a little bit more progressive policies enacted in a little more conservative states, and we're happy to see it. Now, that's all well and good. You've got patient protection. How much does an eighth cost, like for your average mids right now out there?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't go for average mids, but
Killing me.
You can get I'd say there are places that I go to where you can get an eighth for $25.
See,
it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. See that's about what you're looking at out here too. Anywhere from $25 to $30 for a good eighth.
Mm-hmm. Those are the cheap good eighths. Like if you go connoisseur stuff, it
like
can
those,
get up there. Those are more exotics and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. And any market's gonna have bottom shelf, mid shelf, and top shelf. What were you saying, Evan?
Oh, I was just like probably my favorite place. It's 35, out the door all day, every day for an eighth, and it's all like one shelf, and it's really, really good. But then they also have the card system where, you know, you get a stamp after so many, so then you save more. So it comes out to being less than 35 and eighth overall.
Oh, that's cool that they allow you some, bulk discounts after you buy so many. You get a little stamp card and you have some more.
Yeah, it's cool.
Now, it sounds like it's a pretty cool market. What do you think Oklahoma did wrong with medical legalization?
This is a really tough one
Mhm.
because as a patient, I don't see a lot. I think most of the complaints with the system are on the commercial side, which we're not as involved with, and we're slowly learning this as we do our podcast.
Right.
Oh, good.
I was just agreeing with it.
The thing that I don't agree with is the metric thing, that we're the whole OMMA switching over their registry or their seed to sale tracking to metric. I'm not sure I'm on board with that.
I can go ahead and say that I'm not on board with that either. We all hate metric out here. And
Yeah.
you know what, gentlemen, it doesn't stop people selling it back east, like diversion. It doesn't stop diversion. It does not stop diversion. You can lie on metric just like you can lie on a manifest.
Right.
It's harder to do, but people still do it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sacks and sacks and sacks and sacks of medical grade we know came from legal farms going back east.
Right.
Yeah.
That it does. So really, it's solving a problem. They're attempting to solve a problem with a product they know doesn't work to solve that problem.
And a problem that shouldn't really exist to begin with, being frank.
I agree with you. I agree. I agree with you with two sides. First of all, there should be no motive for diversion, and shouldn't be as angry about diversion as we are. Is how I feel.
Right. It's not. You always have your concerns about pesticides and things, but how are we purchasing cannabis before everywhere went legal? We were buying at black market.
Right.
Like, just my 2 cents.
So yeah, we have some, and on something I saw in the law when I was there, and I don't know if it's still the case. I should have done some more research before I interviewed you guys. Is the medical plant count still 2 mature plants?
6.
No. Oh, okay.
Well, it's 6 mature and 6 seedlings, so you could have a perpetual grow.
Oh, then that's great. Oh yeah, okay. That would have been, because I know that when they first started the law, it was 2. Is that correct?
I believe that was proposed before, and once it went through, it was changed to 6. I believe it's been 6 ever since legalization.
See,
I know my first card said 6, and I got it about probably 4 months into legalization.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that's good. I'm glad that 2 plant count limit didn't go through, because that would have been my main complaint if that was still the case.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks is technically, as far as smokable flower goes, you can have a half a pound in your home.
Yeah.
Right? But if you've got a perpetual grow of 6 plants, oh man, you better smoke a lot to stay under that,
Right.
Especially if you're, I don't know if outdoor cultivation is as common out there as it is here. But an outdoor plant can produce half a pound to a pound of cannabis easy.
Right. We do have outdoor grows here. The problem with Oklahoma is that the weather, you hear this about everywhere, but it's actually true about Oklahoma. The weather shifts in such violent and unexpected ways. You can't always plan around it. And you'll have a perfect season going for a grow, and then, oh, boom, ka-chow, here's your fucking snowstorm, where you're not a snowstorm in that season, but your giant heat wave.
Well, it could be a snowstorm here. You never know.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I had always asked people, because I have, friends that always tell me, oh, when we go legal, like in Texas, for example, and, Oklahoma back in the day, we're going to grow the best outdoor cannabis. And I'm like, but y'all have bugs and weather on a next level. Like I trellis my plants, and I live in a high wind area of Oregon. And my plants would not stand up to an Oklahoma thunderstorm. They wouldn't.
That's what I was just thinking of. I was like, man, I bet our outdoor growers, I bet our plants are they got some strong stocks on them, man. Like,
I follow a couple of Oklahoma growers online, and I was like, why don't they have them outside? They're always in greenhouses. Y'all are kind of illuminating that for me a little bit.
Well,
It's funny that you bring up the wind thing. On a couple of the places I frequent where the business owners and patients hang out and talk online, like Reddit. Anytime there's a big windstorm in the state, you can depend on a million different posts of people going, "Look what I found in the Dollar General parking lot," and it's like a big stalk of weed.
Oh man.
Oh man. I joke about that. Just smoking. You smoke outside. I call them the Oklahoma winds because they steal bowls from you if you're not careful. But they'll also steal some of your harvest.
Your tumbleweed.
Yeah, I think when I took my wife out to the Midwest for the first time, this wasn't in Oklahoma. It was in Missouri, but same kind of storm. We were driving through the storm, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to pull over." And she's like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't think our windshield wipers will keep up with this water." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And I pulled over on the shoulder. I'm like, "This is what I mean." And she's like, "Jesus." I'm like, "Yeah, we got to stop. We can't see because it was raining so hard." And they don't really have rain like that very commonly out here in the Pacific Northwest.
Somehow there are some growers that are making it work though. Like, Okay Kush Collective is the name of a grower. They're all organic, sun grown. And I had some of their strain, the machine, and that was some of the best weed I've had out here.
That sounds really cool, and you're always going to have people that figure out how to do it. But in environments like that, it's incredibly labor intensive. I mean, it's already a labor intensive plant to cultivate, but when you're dealing with extreme weather frequently, it makes it 10 times more difficult. So that they're able to do that well is admirable on their part. And I would like to see more outdoor cultivation just from an environmental perspective anyway.
Right. I'm going to try it. Here in a couple months, I'll be purchasing a house. And after that, I might not make it into the season this year, but next year, definitely, I want to try outdoor cultivation at home.
Oh, I would love to watch that on Instagram. I'm really excited to watch that, actually.
Yeah, especially if I have to wait till next year, I'll probably, build a box or a an area for it, make it nice.
Yeah, and you'll have time to really plan out. Like you can try different trellising.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different ways you go. You go rigid or flexible depending on how much wind you expect.
Mm-hmm. That the backyard doesn't get much wind, so
it's all boxed in. It's really
nice. It's all walled, and it's got the house and then a few trees, so not a lot of wind gets back there.
Okay, cool.
But it does have a wide open area in the front to where it'll get all the sun while the sun is up.
Nice. Okay, cool. So you've got a pretty good spot to be.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you actually, do you how do you make do you grow in soil, like composted super soil? Like what's the process of getting that compost started, getting that soil?
So but what I used as a base soil last year was I get there's a local gardening center here in the area that has a few stores. They're called the Grange, and I go to them and I get their GMB Organics raised bed soil, and then I take that and I put 1 bag of that, and then into a 30-gallon Smart Pot, and then I coat the top of that with Happy Frog, because Happy Frog retains more moisture than that, so it helps keep the water in the soil longer on hot days. And then that's what I grew in last year. Then I took that, I piled it out in plastic on my front area, and then mixed in leaf litter from my tree out front, and then chicken bedding from my chickens. And then I mixed that and I let that cook over the winter. And then I took that and I mixed that half of that compost mixture I just described to you, that I've been cooking for 5 to 6 months, and half of a bag now of the GMB organic soil. Mix that together and then coat the top with Happy Frog. So I just recycled my soil and then kind of conditioned it is what I did.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I like that.
So far it's working, but I've got an experiment plant that's growing in nothing but the compost mixture that I made, and then Happy Frog on top. And I haven't had to fertilize it. And so far it's not showing any deficiencies. So I may just do the raw compost mix next year and not fertilize as much. We'll see.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I'm just doing a little experimenting. So we were just with what I already had. I was trying to save a little money this year, and it seems to be working really good.
And that's what's fun about this plant. You know, you got to
All
play
kinds of
around
ways.
with, like, I only have one grow under my belt, and I gotta say that first time that I smoked my own bud after the cure, oh man, what a feeling is that?
Yeah.
Like knowing that you've, like, this plant, you've been there from beginning to now, like from seed to stoned, as that YouTube channel's called.
I love that
It's
channel too.
it's just a great feeling
Great.
smoking your own flower.
I think it's one of the more spiritual feelings that you can get as a gardener, whether it's cannabis or peppers or any of
Hmm.
those high energy plants that you cultivate. When you finally get to consume them, there's something
Yeah.
spiritual about them. It's almost how you hear some hunters describe hunting, gardening is like that. Anything where you're producing something that you can consume out of your own labor, there's a spiritual aspect to it that I think
Yeah.
is valuable, and I think that a lot of people in our society are missing out on.
Yes, and it is something that teaches you patience.
Yeah. At every step, if you're impatient like me.
So now we've talked a lot about the past in Oklahoma legislation.
Right.
What do you hope to see in Oklahoma in the next 5 years, as far as legislations or new rules or difference in like the regulations that control cannabis cultivation and consumption in Oklahoma?
I can tell you something I hope doesn't change.
Okay.
Um, in reference to a law we talked about recently, Blake and I. There are plans right now being made where potentially Oklahoma could soon go to a model where all cannabis sold is prepackaged. Meaning no more ability to smell it at the store. All the stuff that you enjoy being a cannabis consumer here in Oklahoma would be gone, and you would just have to buy your eighths or quarters or whatever in a cat food tin or whatever prepackaged. And I very much hope that does not make it any further, and certainly I hope it doesn't make it into law.
I would agree with you. That would be very unfortunate.
Yeah, I do not want to lose the ability to smell and look at the bud first. No.
That was the worst thing about COVID from a consumption standpoint, is you kind of had to fly a little bit more blind than you usually do. Because I don't know about in Oklahoma, but in Oregon, we had to wear masks in the dispensary, and they were like blow it at you with like a hand fan, but
Yeah,
it's not the
same.
same.
They did the
Yeah,
exact same thing here.
exact same. It was like, yeah, step back, pull your mask down a little, and we'll shoot some air over with the fan.
I mean, it was better than how it first started, where they weren't letting anyone smell anything at all. But
Oh no, it was just curbside pickups.
oh yeah, I hated that. I bought some of the worst weed I've ever bought in my life then.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So how has the culture around cannabis changed since medical passed in Oklahoma, both good and for ill?
Well, I want to go back to the what I would like to see happen within the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The one thing I would like to see happen, me personally, would be to, and this has come up in legislation a couple times, just hasn't made it through yet, is to open up recreational, but not get rid of the medical either. Like maybe a recreational tax to everyone 21 and over, and give it because a lot of the laws that come in and that harm patients are usually they say they're used to combat the black market. And usually it just ends up fucking patients over and making things harder for the businesses. But me personally, I believe open up rec with a little extra tax for the non-medical card holders. And that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah. And I would advise all Oklahomans that to be very wary of creating up a separate rec market from your medical one, and then building out a whole entire thing separate, because what has happened in almost every state that has a medical program, like Oregon, Washington, even California, cultivators for that medical program that were helping low-income patients dried up, and card holders went down dramatically. You don't want that. You fundamentally don't want that.
Not even like just as like the added tax.
The added tax, I don't necessarily have a problem with, but you don't want to.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to deviate for sure. What I'm saying, definitely piggyback.
Yeah.
it would be
Something like
concurrent with like the same industry, just essentially a tax stamp for the medical users.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah. And you just keep the same industry intact. Exactly. Because because what happens, what always happens is a thriving, healthy, local led medical market is just slayed by out of towners with rec money. And
Yeah.
you can try to defend against it all you want, but it just doesn't seem to work.
No,
it wasn't in
what I'm
Illinois.
proposing is essentially just a tax stamp for medical users, because I'm for rec, but I don't want to lose medical, because then I believe minors as patients get left behind when that happens.
That's true as well. That's usually true as well.
That's a really good point.
How has the culture around cannabis changed since medical passed in Oklahoma?
The biggest thing, and this is speaking as somebody who only moved here about a year ago, so like I'm kind of talking out of turn a little bit.
Yeah.
But you've seen where Oklahoma has come, and I'm gonna get kind of into the meme here, the cool state to Texas now in one regard. So before, you get a lot of your black market stuff, I'm assuming, coming up from Texas, and now the people from Texas are, coming to us.
Right. That's actually kind of funny. I never even thought about like the social and like the cachet and like as a travel destination, because you've got Texas right there. You've got Louisiana. Yeah.
And now that we have temporary medical licenses, yeah, we are the travel destination. For $100, if you have a medical card in another state, you can get a 30-day card here. So come visit and smoke up.
I know. I tried to do that when I had a family trip out there one time, but I didn't have enough time. There's like a 30-day waiting period.
Yeah, you got to plan it out.
Yeah, you really so I really had to plan it out. And if I did come to Oklahoma again, I would try to give myself like a 45-day window so I could have the proper experience.
Oh yeah,
totally worth it.
There are a couple places that are like cannabis lounges you can go to and stuff. They're pretty fun. I see that being more of a thing in the future as we come out of the tail end of the pandemic, hopefully.
Oh yeah, and if I'm there, I'll be probably visiting some family members and some old friends. So there'll be plenty of back porches on private property for me to smoke anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd say it's mostly decriminalized here anyway, but yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
for sure.
That's the biggest change I've seen. Yeah, is nobody cares about it anymore. Used to it was like, what's that smell? Now it's oh yeah,
who's doing that? Call the police.
Oh well.
I got pulled over literally last week with like a half ounce in my front seat, and I was breaking the rules there. I should have had it in my trunk. I just had it with my stuff. I wasn't smoking and driving or anything like that. And the cop who pulled me over, he just glanced at my weed card in my hand, didn't even like take it from me. He's just like, okay, all good. Like, that's how lax it's become here.
Yeah, and I know I'm guilty of that too. I'll go to the dispensary, pick up my stuff, throw it in the front seat next to me, and just drive home. And I shouldn't, because they can pop you. They can give you a ticket for that in just about every state where it's legal. You're supposed to have it like in a box or like in the trunk or in the back seat in most states where it's even recreationally legal. You got to have it, out of reach. You kind of
it's got to be arm's length away, I believe.
So
I usually just throw it in the trunk to be safe.
Yeah, and that's what we should do, but apparently we don't.
I mean, we are tend to be forgetful sometimes.
So if a meteor was coming to kill us all and you had 2 hours to get stoned before it came, what would you smoke and why?
Blake, would you like to go first?
All right. Well, since I live in Oklahoma City, there's a lot more things I can get to within 2 hours. I'd probably drive up to Edmond, hit a few of my favorite dispensaries, grab some cheesecake edibles, some flour, and some good fucking hash rosin, and just blast off.
I probably wouldn't smoke too much personally. I would get some of these hash caps I've been munching on, or a Zyn gummy, and eat a couple of those and just flow through that way.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'd just keep smoking until the meteor were funny.
Just keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
I think the first 10 minutes, you got to get as many edibles into your system as you ever have.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the hour, you do bong rips until you're almost dying. And then the last hour of your life is just perfect.
Oh yeah, you wash the edibles down with the weed drinks too. You know?
Oh, see,
yeah.
I haven't drinking too many weed drinks.
We've had what amounts to Kool-Aid or like powdered Gatorade that has 100 milligrams of THC per serving.
Yeah.
And like, because it absorbs through your stomach lining instead of your liver that way, it hits you almost as fast as like hitting a joint does. It's a pretty interesting experience.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Well, for me, I'd say it hit me probably about 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my tolerance is probably more comparable to yours.
Well, my edible tolerance is weird because I'm the flower guy. Edibles are weird for me. I don't know if it's my years of beating the shit out of my liver with drinking, but
edibles kind of are hit or miss for me too. Either it's a really nice time, or it's not enough, or I go to sleep. I seldom ever have a good regulated time, and I used to drink a lot too, and so that might be the issue.
I wonder, you might try the stuff that absorbs through the stomach lining.
Okay.
Because that drink, it was consistent. I had 3 of them, and every day was pretty much the same effect.
All right, I'll buy one next time I see one and have the extra money to burn.
Right on. It's like, man, I'm always doing edible stuff. Like, we're always looking into new stuff like that because of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm a flower boy.
Oh yeah, me too. I honestly, I know it's maybe not the best for me, but I prefer to smoke, and I'm going to do that until medically counterindicated.
Fair, man. Respect. I would do it more if it didn't make me cough so much. It's not that I dislike it. It's that edibles don't make me die.
It makes sense, and not everyone is blessed with big cavernous lungs that don't seem to mind being coated with THC gunk.
Oh, it kills me. I don't know why. No, some stuff doesn't, but that's cool. Edibles never do.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the Bagseed Chronicles. Could you plug your podcast one more time and maybe your Instagram for everyone?
Yeah, I usually do it on the show, so I guess I'll do it on here. Our Instagram is Smokin Okies Pod or Podcast, Blake?
Pod.
Smokin Okies Pod. Our podcast is Smokin Okies. You can find us online at smokinokiespod.com. We've also got a Reddit I've been screwing with. It's reddit.com/r/Smokin Okies.
Okay, guys. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you for having us. I'm
Yes.
Brandon with the Smokin Okies.
Thank you so much for coming on the Bagseed Chronicles. I had a great time talking to you guys today. I will see y'all later.
Yeah, thank you again. Have a good one, man.
You too. Thank you for listening to Bagseed Chronicles. You can contact me on Instagram at Uncle Dig or at my email, uncledig4@gmail.com. The producer of the music found on this podcast is Chad DeVilliers. He can be found on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid and on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises.